I'm Gabriel Ritchie.
Jeremiah McConan.
Welcome to the Ritchie and Mecco Connection, a very, very, very special episode today. We're going to talk a little bit about the conference title games. We're sorry we're a little late on that. Um, and we're going to talk about the NBA 65 game rule. There's a lot of interesting debates about that. But the bulk of this episode and what we'll start with and what we're very excited to have our guest here help us with is today, and this will be in the title of the episode, so you already know. We are ranking the top sports franchises of the 21st century. So starting from 2000 all the way now to 2024, the date is it's February 4th, 2024. Super Bowl 50 what,
How's
58?
yeah,
Is that next? Super Bowl 58 will
in a
be
week.
next will be a week from now. So this list, there's teams competing in that game who could possibly move up the list or move down or whatever. But just in case you're listening to this in the future and Patrick Mahomes has three Super Bowl rings already, my apologies. But Jay, we're not here alone, as I mentioned before. You and I were very well versed in basketball and football, but we needed to bring in the big guns, somebody who's well versed in the other two major American sports, baseball and hockey, and that is my good friend, my cousin, a
Good
part of
friend,
the
literally blood related. Just know I have to be cool with you.
part of the bloodline, Dave Uso from Podcast Suicida. Dave, thanks for joining us today.
Always a pleasure, fellas. Happy to be here.
Before we started recording, Jay, you had a question about, and it's good we have Dave here from Podcast Suicida to answer this question. You've been seeing a lot of free Cody or bring Cody
we
back
want
tweets. We want
we want
Cody.
Cody. Yeah. Been seeing a lot of that on the timeline lately. So I would love an explanation onto what all that's about. And I think we have the perfect two guys to educate us on that.
All right. So I'll give you a full, complete breakdown from starting fucking 2 years ago to now. So Cody comes back from AEW at WrestleMania 38 in 2022, and it was unreal. And they were in not a great place yet, or that may have been when it was first starting to pick up a little bit. And because it was still the Vince ran creative and all that shit, which we don't need to talk about him
Ugh.
any more than we have to.
Yeah.
And it was great. Huge reaction, just instantly one of the top guys, if not maybe instantly the top good guy in the company.
Hmm.
And he almost immediately gets hurt, tears his pec, literally whole upper body's just purple, and
Finishes
he
the match.
and he still finishes the match and then has a full Hell in a Cell match with, I mean, maybe they just did the job well.
Yes.
Not many restrictions. He misses a bunch of time, comes back, wins the Rumble, goes to WrestleMania. We all thought, a good chance that he was going to win, and he didn't,
And this is
which
in
is fine.
2023. This is
Yes.
WrestleMania 39
Yeah.
now.
Which is fine because we love a good long-term story.
Yes.
We got I got worked real heavy though, I'm not going to lie. I was pissed in the moment, but throughout the last year, Gabe said it a million times. The
It's
match
Empire
was
Strikes Back.
Yeah, the match was phenomenal, and we figured he was going to win this year, and it would make last year even better because it's
Because
the
he
long term part.
Roman cheated. He didn't get
Yeah,
killed. He didn't, it,
he
it
had to
went as
be.
it should.
Yeah,
In a time capsule, if 20 years from now you're going back, you're like, let's rewatch WrestleMania 38, let's rewatch WrestleMania 39, let's rewatch WrestleMania 40. It should be this ladder Cody is climbing. It's he returns to WWE, he gets fucked over in the main event one year, he claws his way back into the main event for WrestleMania 40.
yeah.
I'll let you continue, Dave.
So over the last year, um, he's had some on and off feuds, but he's just so good that people still give a shit about him and people still wanted to see him win. So Royal Rumble comes. That was maybe a week ago, I think. Uh, yeah, like a week and a day ago.
Mm-hmm.
And he ends up winning. Now, some people wanted other guys to win, whatever, but I think the majority were pretty pleased with what they saw. So he gets to oh, another thing. So at the end of the match,
Mhm.
they always point at the sign. It's like the big thing. Now,
Yeah.
Roman was sitting in a box and Cody points to the sign and then he turns around and he obviously was pre-planned. He points at him, essentially saying like, "I want you," because you have,
Mhm.
for anybody who doesn't know, when you win the Royal Rumble, there's two world champions. You technically have a choice of who you want to face. But obviously, with the whole way the last 2 years have gone, he would face Roman. So now he points at him. So it's like, all right, here we go. Next 4 months is gonna be fucking awesome. It's gonna be great build, and the match is gonna be great. And another thing is, it's a 10-year anniversary of Mania, which is usually a big deal. The last two, at least 20 and 30, had like the good babyface
Culminations,
endings.
yeah,
Yeah.
of great
So
stories.
yeah, and then we get to SmackDown this week. Now, a side note, WWE and the UFC have merged to form TKO Corp or whatever. They're essentially ran by the same people. They just appointed The Rock as on the board. So a guy who has already has
Interesting.
some pull because he's one of the all-time legends. Now literally has pull. So come SmackDown, Cody and Roman were gonna have a face-to-face, and it was like, nice, this is where it's gonna start. So Cody comes out, he starts cutting a promo, and then he says some bullshit that you can literally see in his face, especially now knowing the outcome. You can see in his face the whole time that he is just not about it. Unless, again, we are getting super worked, which is what I'm hoping for.
Which is 70% the 70% of the time that's the case.
Yes. But we are bitching as if that's not going to end up being the case. So he says instead of waiting until WrestleMania to end this like dictatorship of the world championship in WWE, which has been phenomenal, but it like we're ready for it to end.
Hmm.
And he lost last year in the main event of WrestleMania, and it's supposed to be this culmination of like the guy. So the only place that this shit can happen is the main event of Mania, realistically. He tells him that he doesn't want to wait till WrestleMania. There is a pay-per-view in Australia in front of like 60,000 people, so a big show. But it's also going to be at like 4 in the morning here. So the North American viewers are not going to have as high a viewership. So I just don't think it makes sense. He says, um, he took advice from somebody and that person knows him very well. And then The Rock comes out, essentially setting up Cody versus Roman at Elimination Chamber and The Rock at Mania. Even though the last 2 years, this very moment has been built for Cody to beat Roman at WrestleMania. And the reason that it happened was because apparently, allegedly, with all the allegations, Brock Lesnar is no longer in the Mania plans for a big match, and then CM Punk got hurt, so he's no longer, and he was supposed to be in one of the main events. In air quotes, this is why it happened. The Rock heavily pushed for him to be in the match instead of Cody because of the injuries, and he thought it would save WrestleMania when that match between Cody and Roman is the match that everybody wants at WrestleMania.
So I'll say this though, and we'll spend like 60 more seconds on wrestling again to the list. Roman Reigns, honorable mention for greatest franchises of the 21st century with
Yeah.
his long reign. But I mentioned to you at Rumble, Dave, like what I would have liked to see is I think it's cool to see Cody win at Mania, but it would also be predictable. I wouldn't have minded if you had Cody beat Roman at Elimination Chamber and then him versus Punk at Mania for the belt, and then have Rock and Roman without the belt. That would have been cool for me. Where it's playing out now is like, is Cody going to lose to Roman at Elimination Chamber, or is he gonna win the belt at Elimination Chamber? And then there's nobody. CM Punk was the only other guy with the clout to like take Cody on for the belt at Mania, and it be like a main event caliber match, because that will just be overshadowed by Roman and Rock. So now it's tough. Now it's tough, and it's very Hulk Hogan-y, they're saying, of The Rock to come by and steal the young guy's spot. But that's basically what you're seeing on Twitter, Jay. That's the outcry you've been seeing. And again, we could all be getting
It's good
worse,
to know.
but that's what it looks like right now. All right. Now,
Fucking
now to real sports. Dave, you know that stuff's fake, right?
real to me, damn it.
Yeah, it's scripted, right? Um, all right. We're gonna all do our top. This was difficult. This was a lot harder than I thought it would be. We all went through the 21st century for the four major American sports. I'm sorry to soccer fans or football fans, soccer, cricket fans, no tennis, no single sports, no golf, no boxing, no disrespect to those sports. We just wanted to make
F1.
this concrete. F1, uh, table tennis, you name it. But the criteria we had for this list, and I sent it to both of you, what matters the most, let's say you're a fan of a franchise, championships, relevancy, overall relevancy, star players, moments, all that played a factor in like when you think of the 21st century, who are the teams that have dominated the longest? I feel like it was easier at the top of this list when you go on one, two, three. There's the usual suspects, the teams that have won multiple titles. But once you get down the list, I'm texting people, I'm asking everybody, would you rather have a team? I asked you both this. Would you rather have a team that won three titles, but they suck for most of the century so far? Would you rather have a team that had one title, but you're always in the mix? Because those are definitely cases. I don't feel great about the back half of my list, and you guys feel a little weird about your list too. So we'll just go through our list and then we'll try to create a really good concrete list at the end. How's that sound?
It's good to me.
All right. I will begin.
I'm trying to semi-order mine right now.
That's fine. I'm gonna pull up mine on my phone here. Without further ado, let me start the list. I'm gonna start from 20, and at the bottom of my list, that's where it feels the weirdest. And I could go either way with this. All right. And I don't feel good about this number 20 at all. 20, I had the Green Bay Packers. So they only have one Super Bowl and one Super Bowl appearance. You had the Eagles who didn't make my honorable mention. Like the Eagles didn't make my list. They have one Super Bowl and they've been in it three times. But I feel like the Packers were just in so many big playoff games. Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre, like they've just been
Right.
relevant the whole time. And now
Yeah.
Jordan Love, they're back in the playoffs. Like they've been relevant the whole time. And I have to acknowledge that where you have teams that maybe were in the Super Bowl more or had more success. I didn't put the Giants in here too. The Giants won two.
Interesting.
They won
Yeah.
two, and then they just like they've been irrelevant outside of that.
It was like a
Um,
blip of success and fake success, if we're
it's
being honest, but
it's
And like we said in that little break, Gabe, it's like they were so close together.
yes, it's tricky. It's tricky,
yeah.
and I'm not sure what I'd rather root for. I've been asking everybody this. A lot of people say they'd rather have the Green Bay Packers for the past 25 years than the Giants. By the way, we're starting at 2000 on, so a 99 title just doesn't. All right. 19, I had the Boston Celtics.
Wow.
I had the Boston
Okay.
I had the Boston Celtics. They won in '08. They could have went three in a row if not for injuries, but that's just me saying that.
Yeah.
They've appeared in the finals three times in the 21st century. And, oh, I was gonna list off stars. So the Packers, you had Favre, you had Rodgers, Donald Driver, um, Greg Jennings. Like it really is when you think of the Packers, you think of their quarterbacks.
Devontae Adams, another.
Devontae Adams, yeah.
Plus, the
Celtics,
NFL
Definitely
such
the
is a quarterback contest. When it comes to like cultural impact and shit like that.
yeah,
If you have a good quarterback, and they have two all-time quarterbacks for the
right,
majority of the 21st century.
exactly.
right.
Celtics, obviously Pierce, Garnett, Allen, now Tatum and Brown. 18, and this is now I'm gonna start needing Dave's assistance. I put the Colorado Avalanche. They won in the beginning of the century in 2001, and they've won in 2022. They have a winning percentage. They were in the top 10 of winning percentage
And this is a
since
hockey team,
there's a
just
hockey
to
team.
know.
Yes, yes, of 534, and I have nothing else. I know they had Ray Bork, and that's all I can tell you. That's the only Colorado Avalanche player I can name. But I had to put them in for just two titles in two different decades. I think that's impressive. Um, and we'll assess later. Dave, you can help me out later. 17, I had the Red Wings. They've been in the Stanley Cup final 3 times. By the way, again, bottom of this list, I don't feel good about. Um, 2002, 2008, they won. They had a slightly worse winning percentage than Colorado Avalanche, but they've been in it 3 times, opposed to Avalanche, who have been in it 2. 16, I had the St. Louis Cardinals. First baseball team you're hearing. They made the World Series 4 times. They won in 06 and 2011. They have one of the best winning percentages in baseball as well in this 21st century with 554. Um, Albert Pujols. That's the Cardinal I can name. 15 in this one, I didn't think they'd even make the list when I first went through it, but of course they won a title in 2000. 15, I had the New York Yankees. They won in 2000, they won in 2009, and they have 4 World Series appearances, and they have the highest winning percentage in baseball in the 21st century with 580.
Another team with a lot of superstars too.
Derek Jeter, A-Rod,
Guys, yeah,
Mariano Rivera, Aaron Judge, most recently, and plenty of more. Like Dave
yeah,
mentioned, when I brought that to your attention, you said, fucking highest payroll in baseball. They better have like
Yeah,
a great
that
winning
was that
percentage.
was the only
yeah.
the only thing to really take away from the Yankees. It's like, yeah, they have the highest win percentage and like all these superstar players, but at the same time, they should have done more
Hmm.
with the money that
Right.
they spent, which is why like I'm okay with where you have them at, just
Yeah.
looking at the grand scheme of things of like all the franchises, how many franchises just have such little success,
Hmm.
which
Right.
makes me appreciate the last 20 years of Boston sports a little bit more.
Exactly. And
But
yeah.
yeah,
Bruins also didn't make my list, and maybe they should have. The Bruins had the second
Mm,
highest winning percentage besides Vegas Golden Knights, who just started a few
so
years
they
ago,
essentially have
obviously.
the highest.
So
Yeah.
they have the highest of the 21st century. They have the most wins. Uh, one title. One title. And they've been there 3 times, Dave. One title. Tough.
One was in a lockout shortened season though, so if you want to count that as like a Mickey Mouse bullshit,
Mm,
then go ahead.
yeah. So
you're
Cardinals,
at
Yankees.
14.
I'm on
Now Gabe is gonna
14,
be
and I have
okay.
I have the Baltimore Ravens, who won in 2000 at the beginning of the century, and they won in 2012. They've been in the Super Bowl twice. One of the higher winning percentages in football with 599.
They've
Um,
just always been good.
always, and
Like,
I wrote that down. They're always in the mix, and arguably have the
yeah,
greatest defense ever in the 2000. That stat's been coming around because the Chiefs this year have one of the lowest point totals allowed ever in the playoffs, top 4. No Patriots on that list, for those of you who think Brady was carried. The Ravens allowed, and the Chiefs have been allowing 13.8 a game. The
yeah,
Ravens
it's
in
nuts.
2000 allowed they averaged 5.8 points allowed in a game, which is
That's
fucking crazy,
insane.
which is crazy. So I have
Wow,
to put them on Ray Lewis, Ed Reed,
for
Flacco,
sure.
Jacoby Jones, but obviously it's those first 2 names that come
Yeah.
to mind when you think of the Ravens. 13, I had the Houston Astros. Uh,
That's a good one. I forgot about them actually.
2 titles, 2017, 2022, over 500 winning percentage, 5 World Series appearances. They had the cheating scandal, but Altuve, Springer, like they have guys I can name for baseball, which is impressive if I can name a bunch of guys on your team and you're
Yeah, but
not
do
like
you
the Red
think you can
Sox.
only name them because of the cheating scandal?
No, Dave, I remember watching. You came to my house once after the 2017 playoffs, and I was
That
like,
was
"This
that was
Altuve
the
guy's nasty."
that was the cheating run,
Yeah,
and you
but
can
I didn't know
attest
it.
that while we were watching it, I was praying that the Astros were gonna win. One,
Yeah,
because fuck the Dodgers, and two, because like, oh, they were all homegrown, like it's such a feel good story, and then
yeah,
fuck them.
yeah, right. But yeah, I had to put them on. That's a lot of success. 12, and
Yeah.
this is a team that could fly up the list. Not fly up the list, but raise a little bit. Kansas City Chiefs. 2 Super Bowls, 2019, 2022, they might get a third, be the newest dynasty in sports, be the only other football dynasty of the 21st century outside of the Pats. And they've been in the Super Bowl 4 times already. 561 winning percentage. I also put them a little higher on this list though, because even though Mahomes, this only started in like 2018, they were already like kind of in the mix with Alex Smith. Not really, but they were like winning games. They weren't just a dumpster fire. So I'm
Right.
acknowledging the franchise as a whole. Uh, Notable players: Mahomes, Kelsey, Tyreek Hill, Chris Jones. All right. Number 11, I had the Pittsburgh Steelers, 2 titles in 2005 and 2008. They have 3 Super Bowl appearances. They have the second highest winning percentage in football of the 21st century with 637. Um, Number of things I wrote down, that Super Bowl 43, outside of the Patriots Super Bowls, I think that might be the best Super Bowl I've seen. It was a shootout. I wanted the Cardinals to win, but just the unbelievable, unbelievable final drive by the Steelers, and that it was just what a great game, what a great playoffs that was. Big Ben, James Harrison, Ike Taylor, Troy Polamalu, Antonio Brown, all those names come to mind. And Tomlin, just no losing seasons, which I've made fun of on the pod, where it's like, cool, you're 9-8 or you're 8-8, but it is commendable in the grand scheme of one's career. Now we're in the top 10. And I had the Chicago Blackhawks, 3 Stanley Cups, 2010, 2013, 2015, second worst. And they're the lowest team with 3 titles on this list. Uh, Second worst winning percentage in hockey since 2000, with 475. I remember Patrick Kane. Dave, any other Blackhawks come to mind?
Jonathan Tays, Duncan Keith,
Taves, yeah, I remember both those guys actually.
nowadays Connor Bedard.
Mm. So yeah, I had them at 10.
I mean, a legit dynasty at one point. They have to be on the list.
Exactly. 9, and this is where it gets weird. I had another team that won 3 titles, the San Francisco Giants, 4 title appearances in the
Same thing.
in the
Same thing
21st
at the same
century.
time.
Yeah, 2010, 2012, 2014. 521 winning percentage. So they're still in like that top 10 of winning percentages in baseball. Um, but yeah, all around the same time.
Yeah, they were
Number
the
8, I had
equivalent
the
of each
team.
other.
Yeah. Number 8, I had the Tampa Bay Lightning, 3 titles, 2004, 2020, and 2021. They went back to back. 5 Stanley Cup title appearances, 514 winning percentage. I know Steven Stamkos. That's about it, Dave.
Marty St. Louis, Vincent Lecavalier, Kucherov. Yeah,
All right.
a couple more.
Yeah, it's a lot of hockey and baseball at the back end of this list. Not a lot of basketball teams mentioned yet, but I'll get there. Uh, 7, I had the Pittsburgh Penguins, 3 titles, 2009, and then they went back to back in 2016 and 2017 with 4 title appearances, 5 at 32 winning percentage. Sidney Crosby, Malkin, and Letang, they're the longest trio in sports history back to back, and they went back to back in 16 and 17. Believes they've been together for 18 years straight, and a single trio has not been, which is crazy to believe because there's been some long trios together. A single trio in sports has not been together that long, which I have to put them high. I think they're the highest hockey team on this list. A lot of hockey teams won 3 titles, but winning it, going back to back, and then also winning in 2 separate decades is cool. All right. Sorry, my technology is being weird today. Number 6, I have the Miami Heat. 3 titles, 2006, and then they went back to back 2012, 2013. 7 title appearances in the 21st century. Heat culture.
Yeah.
Uh,
Damn.
558 winning percentage. Notable guys, or notable moments. You had the D Wade and Shaq getting all the way, getting past the Mavericks. LeBron going back to back after all the ringless jokes, and he finally climbs the hump. Game 6 in Boston. The Ray Allen shot in 2013. Great players include LeBron, Wade, Butler, Bosch, and Shaq.
Some of my worst memories ever, but
Yes.
you got to give it to them.
And they've been good the entire time. Well, since 2005, since Wade, they've been relevant most of the time. 99% of the time, I would say, in the mix in some way or the other. 3 titles. Number 5, I had the Golden State Warriors. A lot of people might, at first thought, you might think, oh, they'd be higher on the list, right? But no, because their run started in 2013. They were already 13. We were already 13 years into the decade.
Yeah.
4 titles, 2015, 2017, 2018, 2022, 6 title appearances. They're 506, a winning percentage in the 2000s of 506, but 631 in the Steph era.
And also had
Notable,
the greatest team of all time, so
and
they
I was
have to
gonna
be at least top
no,
10.
notable moments: 73 and 9, the 2017 greatest basketball team ever assembled. 2022, Steph cements himself amongst the legends, top 10 to 12 all time, undoubtedly. Steph, Clay, Kevin Durant, Draymond Green are the notable guys that you think of. You can also mention the We Believe Warriors, Baron Davis, Matt Barnes, all those guys.
For the relevancy part, I guess, yeah, they mattered.
Yeah. Number 4, I had the Boston, and I feel really good about my top 5, honestly, and maybe even my top 6. But number 4, I had the Boston Red Sox.
I think we might legitimately have the same top four. That was the
Yeah.
only one I was questioning.
Number 4, 4 World Series, 2004, 2007, 2013, 2018, 4 appearances, 545, one of the best winning percentages in baseball. Um, Notable moments: the '04 comeback versus the Yankees, breaking the curse, Big Poppy's grand slam versus Detroit. 2018, one of the greatest baseball teams ever. Notable Red Sox. I mean, baseball's tricky, especially when you know the team. Like I'm in Boston, obviously. I feel like I could have named a million, but I just put David Ortiz, Manny Ramirez, Mookie Betts, and Pedro Martinez. Those are the 4 like Red Sox. I'm sure we could go back and forth about who's better or what, but those guys come to mind. I'll keep it rolling. Number 3, I had the San Antonio Spurs, which I initially making this list thought I would have them at 2, but their first title was in 1999. So they only won 4 titles in the 21st century: 2003, 2005, 2007, and 2014. 6 title appearances, 640 winning percentage, but in the Duncan era, a winning percentage of 711. 0.711.
That's fucked.
Duncan, Cooking, Prime, Kobe, and Shaq in 2003. I have Kawhi's 2014 performance, Robert Horry shot versus the Pistons. Notable stars: Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, Kawhi, David Robinson, and now Wemby. And now they get Wemby,
Right.
which is what I put. Number 2, and this is what pained me to put them here: the Los Angeles Lakers. 6 championships: 2000, the three-peat. 2000, 2001, 2002, 2000, and then they go back to back 09, 2010, and then they won the bubble chip in 2020. 8 champion finals appearances. Was it more than 8? It was 8.
Dude,
Um,
don't forget about the in-season tournament win.
right. And the first ever inaugural in-season tournament winners. Uh 549 winning percentage, which is why it's not when I compare the team at in the number 1 spot also has 6 titles, but when you compare the winning percentage, it's like the Lakers had many instances of they sucked, but the stars
Right.
go to LA and that's how they sustain success. Uh 549 winning percentage, and this is like getting off track, but 578 in Kobe era compared to 711 in Duncan era. Don't compare the two guys. Um Notable things: the three-peat, Kobe's renaissance in 08, 09, 10, and the bubble champs. The LeBron going there and getting a title in LA, even though they all hate LeBron. It was just funny. Notable stars. No team has had the stars like the Lakers. They had Kobe, Shaq, LeBron, Anthony Davis, Paul Gasol. And yeah, props to the Lakers. Number 1, you already knew this. The New England Patriots, 6 titles: 2001, 2003, 2004, 2014, 2016, 2018, 10 Super Bowl appearances. 687, which is the highest in the 2000s, 763 in the Tom Brady era. Notable moments: Super Bowl 36, the first one, back to back, going back to back in 0304, in the streak that occurred in that time span. Um, Undefeated regular season 2007, Super Bowl 49 versus Seattle, and then 28-3 comeback in Super Bowl 51. Notable guys, I just put Brady and Bill. And then other notable Patriots, Troy Brown, Gronkowski, Randy Moss, Wes Welker, Julian Edelman. That's my list. I felt really strong about the top 5, 6, 7, but that back end, like, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Does anybody else want to go next?
I'll go last.
Ooh. Okay. So all right, I like the way I did it was so I had 4 hockey teams and 4 baseball teams that I put to the side that I think should be in my top 20, but I didn't know where to put them.
Mm,
Obviously, because I just don't know really I don't really know how to gauge that score and how much like 2 titles in hockey weighs versus like one in the NFL. So I'm gonna need your help here with this. Both of yours help with this one, but
Well, I'm here.
all right. So okay, so my list is gonna just be football and basketball teams.
okay.
And then you guys tell me when it's like, okay, a hockey team should be there or a baseball team should probably be there. But I had 20 San Francisco 49ers,
Mm,
19. Yeah,
no
but keep
Super
in
Bowl
mind though.
wins
I
So
think
that's the, like they've been
there's enough
okay, yeah.
yet.
teams.
Yet.
There's enough teams spread out that have had championships that I don't think a team that hasn't won a championship in a quarter century, well, plus obviously, but it's been a quarter century. Like, I don't think a team like that can make a list. You are judged
They,
off your
they shouldn't be
success,
on the
and they
if we're
haven't
doing
had
all
the
four
ultimate
leagues,
success.
Yeah, they'll get
Yeah.
bumped. They're
yeah,
gonna
Okay,
get
that's
bumped,
fair.
like
Yeah,
Jay
yeah,
said.
they're
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
get
yeah.
bumped. Yeah.
Anyways, yeah.
And then I had the Giants. I just don't feel good about by like 20 to 15. Then I had the Giants at 19,
Mm-hmm.
the Utah Jazz 18th.
All right.
Uh, and
This
that
is
so that
going off the
already
rails
feels
quick.
yeah,
It's
that
going off the
already
rails
feels
very
off.
quickly. The Jazz have even made the finals.
And then I had the Rockets 17, and then the Cavs 16, and then I had the Saints 15.
The Saints, I
So that
was
was my
flirting with
20,
the Saints making my
20 to
making my
15. Yeah.
list.
Yeah, because they've been good for the whole time Drew Brees is there, and
In
who hasn't been
moments.
good at.
In
Yeah,
moments.
they
Katrina.
got the Super Bowl win. Right. Okay, then I had the Mavericks 14th.
Mm-hmm.
They're a team that's just been relevant for a long time. When looking at it, like they've won a lot,
Third,
but
third highest winning
um,
percentage in basketball, or second in the
that's
20
up there.
2000s.
Yeah, it's definitely up there. So then yeah, Dallas Mavericks 14th. I had the Philadelphia Eagles 13th,
Mm,
Indianapolis Colts 12th,
mm,
the Seattle Seahawks 11th,
mm,
the Green Bay Packers 10th,
mm.
and then I had the Steelers 9th. I had the Celtics 8th. I thought the Celtics would be higher on your list, Gabe, but you made a good argument as to why they should be where they are.
They should
And then I
be,
had the
but they're not.
Baltimore Ravens 7th.
Mm-hmm.
So they're my third highest football team. And then I had the Miami Heat 6th, the Kansas City Chiefs 5th, Golden State Warriors 4th, San Antonio Spurs 3rd, the Lakers 2nd, and then the Pats 1st. That's how I've rounded out.
Mm. Okay.
Okay, and then here are the four. Now here are the 4 baseball teams and the 4 hockey teams that I think should be on the list, and you guys can sort of help me parse through where they should be on the list. But I had the Penguins. I think the Penguins, just looking just off the numbers, they probably should be the #1 hockey team. So I had the Penguins, then I had the Tampa Bay Lightning, Chicago Blackhawks. All three have 3. And then I had the Bruins as like the 4th hockey team that I thought should be on the list, but I don't know. Like I think they have the highest win percentage, or they have the
They
most
do.
wins since 2000, right?
They
Is that what
do.
it
Yeah.
is?
They do.
Yeah, most wins. They have 17 playoff appearances, 16 playoff series wins, but only 1 title, which is like, they obviously can't be top 3, but at least them having the 1 Stanley Cup, I think, you might be able to squeeze them in the top 20. So those are my 4 hockey teams. And then for baseball, I had the Red Sox, obviously, the Yankees, the Giants, and the Cardinals were the 4 hockey or 4
Hmm.
baseball teams that I think should land somewhere on this list. So, okay, because I had a question. Let me see. I think it was that. Well, I'm trying to look at your list, Gabe, because I was like
Yeah.
I was like keeping track of your list. So you had the Avalanche 18th, you had the Red Wings 17th.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do hockey first. And then you had the Lightning. Oh, so okay, so the Bruins are they just didn't make it for
They
you.
didn't make my list because
Why did you have them over? I guess because the Avalanche have two and the Bruins have one. Did the two just way more for you there? Because the Bruins have like 40 more wins almost.
40 more playoff
Championships do
wins.
matter. Just wins in general.
Oh yeah.
Playoff wins, well, playoff series wins, the Bruins have 16th, the Avalanche have well, they have 18, so
Yeah, just give me the ring. I just lean towards when
the
it's
ring.
closer, give me the rings. If it was like
Yeah.
the Giants, if we're talking like Giants, New York Giants versus Bruins, and it's like you won two rings, but you suck most of the time,
Right.
that's where like you might be able to make me lean towards the Bruins. But when it's
Okay.
like a team that's somewhat in the mix too, and they also have two rings in two different decades,
Hmm.
um, I give the edge to that team.
Okay. That's fair. And
Yeah,
then
that's
for
that
baseball,
might not even be right
yeah.
about that, but that's sort of how I feel at the moment.
What are your thoughts on that, Dave?
Uh, I'm biased both ways towards the Bruins because one, they're my favorite sport team, but then two, they're my least favorite sports team sometimes. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, fuck them. They don't have to be on the list because of like shit like last year. Like I think you take last year in account negatively
Hmm.
because it's
Mhm.
yeah, they had the greatest regular season of all time, and then to just lose in the first
They're the
round, I think is
Dodgers.
well, no, because they were mostly homegrown.
Oh, fair. Very
They,
fair.
I mean, they were playing with the same core, with the exception of maybe Chara that won them a cup 12 years prior
Uh,
in Marchand Bergeron and Krejci. And then
Hmm.
you have a guy like McAvoy, who is a draft pick, Pasternak draft pick. Um, and the Avalanche, like at no point were the Bruins, at least of the last 20 years, like even close to the worst team in the league. Considering the 2 years in the last like 15, 16, 17 years that they missed the playoffs, they were like the first team out.
Mm.
And the Avalanche are really good now because they had like 4 straight years of high picks. Like they were like laughably bad. Because I think one year they were by far the worst team in the league, and then they ended up with like the fourth pick because the NHL uses the lottery. And I mean that's how they got McKinnon, who obviously is gross. And but I will give them, even though they sucked for that long, they are now one of the most consistently dominant teams in the league with pretty much an entirely homegrown team. Like their
Mm.
best players are all, draft picks or at least traded before they were good. So
All right.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I think like I don't know if the Bruins are on my list because I'm still kind of piecing together my last like 6 or 7 spots, and I can't really just I don't know if I can justify putting them on.
Can we
But if
hear
they
your
did,
top
it would
10?
definitely be 29. Yeah.
And then we could try to work this out together.
Okay.
yeah.
So number one, I'll go backwards. So I got number one. I got the Pats.
Okay.
So again, we have the same top four.
Yeah.
So I got Pats, Lakers, Spurs, Red Sox.
Hmm.
And then number five, I have the Warriors.
Okay. Same top five.
And then number six, yeah, maybe. I don't know if we had the same top six too. Six, I had the Heat.
I think I had the Heat at 6.
It's wild.
Yeah, yeah, you did, Gabe.
Seven, I have the Penguins.
I think I had them at 7.
Same. Yeah.
Hey man, these are the organizations that do their
Yeah,
thing year in, year out.
because I gave
Yeah.
them because I mean the thing with the Penguins is they won with the same team 7 years
Hmm.
apart. One of them was a back to back, and the other year was the year after they lost in the final. So it's
Yeah.
like they were so close to having two repeats 7 years apart with the
Unbelievable.
same core. And then up until the last, I think they had like 17 straight seasons in the playoffs or something like that. They had, I think, the
Oof,
longest active streak in the
17
Big Four up
straight.
until last year. And
Wow.
then, I mean, you have a
Yeah.
top three player of all time leading the way. So I think in terms of like Gabe, you were saying like one of the criteria is cultural impact. I think
Hmm.
having somebody like Sid for that long and like how good he was, even though he's usually like a quiet guy or whatever, but real hockey fans know that he's that motherfucking guy.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
I
it's a
think that's
championship
also a
pedigree.
yeah. 8. I actually have 3 hockey teams in a row. 8. I have the Lightning.
Same top 8.
Because they didn't win cups until like the later 2010s. But they won a cup in the early 2000s. I think it was the year before the lockout. Might have
Oh
been
four,
04.
yeah.
Yeah. And then they fell off a little bit after that. They got their high draft pick and they drafted Stamkos, but they still had the same 2 big name players from the original cup in St. Louis and Vincent Lecavalier. So they were still on the team, and then they got Victor Hedman, and then they built another just unbelievable team and were 1 goal away from going to the Stanley Cup final in 2011 against the Bruins in
Mm.
that which greatest hockey game I've ever watched, the 1-0 game. They were that close to getting another cup, and then I mean they were pretty consistently good, and then they did the same thing. They had pretty much the same core with Hedman and Stamkos, and then they got Kucherov, and then they built this just powerhouse team around them over the next few years. And same thing, they lost to the Blackhawks in I think it was 2015, and then after that, I mean they pretty much just took over the league, and they're
Yeah.
still. I mean, yeah, they're still just a force to be reckoned with. They're now that team that their regular season doesn't matter. Once they get to the playoffs, that's all that really matters.
Mm.
Um, this was the tough one for me. I was between the 2 dynasties that we were talking about that were intertwined with each other, the
Then
Giants and the
yep.
Blackhawks. I have the Giants at 10 or 9, and I have the Blackhawks at 10. I gave the Giants the edge because when the
The
Blackhawks
same
weren't
list.
winning, they were fucking terrible. And um, they have 2 number 1 picks in the span of the 21st century, and
Mm.
they were their picks. So they were the worst team in the league at 2 separate times of the 21st century.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, they have a generational talent in Bedard, so who knows what's going to happen. And then you brought up the cultural impact, and I won't go into details about it because it's just so gross. But they had a huge, disgusting scandal a couple years ago, and because we're talking about franchises, that shit was covered up by their franchise for like over 10 years. So I'm taking a notch down from them because of that.
Very fair.
And then I have the Giants because not only did they have their dynasty in the 2010s, when they weren't winning in the early 21st century, they had I don't care that he took steroids. Like the guy
Right.
that essentially saved baseball. They had Barry Bonds, like the home run leader. That era of baseball, they needed steroids, or that sport was gonna fucking die. He should be in the Hall of Fame. I don't care what anybody says. Whether you take steroids or not, you still got to be pretty fucking good at the sport to be able to hit a 99-mile-an-hour fastball 400 million feet. Um, and then they've also just been I mean, they haven't great recently, but they had a few years of just like being a really fun team to watch. So I also give them that credit, and I like their stadium.
Hmm.
So that's my 10, and then the I got to 11 when I was putting my list together. I had the Chiefs.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So do we want to work on this? I feel good about your top 10. It's the same as mine. Jay, do you have
That's
any
wild.
debates? Do you want to throw the Jazz in there? Do you want to throw a Jazz, take out?
Jazz, arguably top 5. Now, I had a question though. So, are we knocking the Yankees and like putting a team like the Giants over them because of the payroll advantage?
Yeah,
Is that the argument behind that?
yeah. I 100% a homegrown championship has way more value than a championship of players that were bought. Like if the Dodgers win the World Series this year, that's completely different than I don't know, like I guess I was gonna say the Rangers, but the Rangers paid like $900 million for their 2 best players. But still, like a team like the Avalanche winning the cup a few years ago, like that is a homegrown team.
Mhm.
The value of that is just levels above paying literally $1 billion in one off season to then buy a champion. Because then if you lose, it's fucking embarrassing. It's like they're supposed to win.
Right.
It's that whole
Yeah.
underdog mentality where it's like, if you beat me, like you're supposed to beat me. But if I beat you, then it's like an all time story.
Yes. And since 2009, they haven't made the World Series at all.
Yeah.
The Yankees.
Yeah. but they had the
Yeah, that's rough.
2000, and then they made the World Series a couple times in the early 2000s, and that's what even got them like on the list. Because going into it, I was like, I know they won in '09, but that's not gonna get them on the list. And I saw that they won in 2000 and had the appearances in 2000. In 4 appearances, I have to put you on. And this isn't even hate as a Red Sox fan. It's like Dave said, like especially in baseball, you can buy titles, and the fact that even with all the money they haven't gone back since '09 is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that is.
they definitely take a hit for that.
And like this, obviously the Red Sox are 4, so it's like it's not like yeah, the Yankees could be like 20 through 15, the Red Sox are 4. We're talking about like two completely different situations here. But a team like the Red Sox, like they win in 2004 with that team, and then the team is only 3 years, but very different in 2007. And then you fast forward to 2013, it's very, very different. A couple of players you got like Pedroia and Poppy and a couple pitchers, whatever. Like, but again, like mostly a different team for how massive baseball teams are. And then you go to 2018, and it's like I think
Completely
it's like
different.
literally Bogarts is like maybe the only player that was on that team, unless I'm just forgetting somebody. And that's 4 different championships with 4 completely different teams. So it's
Mm,
not like you're winning like 3 and 5 years like the Blackhawks with the same core. Like they have like 1 or 2 of the same guys on each of these teams. And then I mean now they're not great, but
no, no, it's a discussion for another day.
yeah.
But yeah, all right. So let me bust open this
So I
this
have like
list.
23 total teams written down, something like that.
Okay,
So I can list off those teams so we can work with
okay.
what I had written down. We can work
So
with that.
all right, and we're good on the Pats at 1. We
Yep.
all agree on that.
For sure. Yeah.
We're good on the Lakers at 2.
Yep.
Unfortunately, 6 titles is 6 titles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Despite this,
Yeah.
their winning percentage isn't near the top, but it's 6 titles is 6 titles.
I want to put the
Or
Spurs ahead so bad, but I
I,
don't think you
I thought
can.
I would going in, but I nope.
Yeah.
Red Sox at 4. Feel good about it. Any objections?
This was also one of the other things I wanted to bring up. This is not obviously Red Sox specific, but I also value the teams that didn't lose in a championship. Red
Mm,
Sox were
Mhm.
4-0.
yeah, yeah,
It's like that whole Brady Montana thing when that was still kind of a thing.
right. Um, Warriors at 5. We feel good about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
No, I feel good about your top 10. We have the same fucking
right.
top 10.
Yeah. All right. All right. Warriors
I
at
think the top
5.
10 is,
Heat,
yeah.
Heat at 6. Penguins at 7. That's like legit. Like I feel really good about that top 7. And then 8, Tampa Bay Lightning, San Francisco Giants, um, Blackhawks 10. And after that, we have the rest of these teams have not won 3 titles. They've won 2 or 1. So I have the Steelers at 11. How do we feel about the Steelers at 11? Second best winning percentage, and then
Yeah,
2
that is
Super
impressive.
Bowls, 3 appearances. I
Yeah,
could be swayed.
that
I
was
might,
the team that I was fighting on with the Chiefs,
yeah.
which I guess would mean that I would have the Steelers at 12.
Uh-huh.
I would probably have the Ravens ahead of both the Steelers and Chiefs.
Mm.
Because they won in 2000 and then 2012, right? Was the
Yes.
second one.
Yes.
And then they've been the best team since 2012. I mean, they've been better than Pittsburgh since 2012. I feel like since 2012, you can maybe say they've been tied, Baltimore and Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And then 2012 on, like Baltimore's had an MVP. They've they've just been a better team to me, which is why I would have the Ravens over the Steelers. The Chiefs, that's a tough one
Who's
because
who's made more conference titles than between Pittsburgh and the Ravens?
the Ravens, I mean, I'm not sure. I would guess Pittsburgh because I just have so much memories of us kicking Pittsburgh's ass
And we have
in the
memories of
conference
the
title
Ravens
game.
kicking our ass, which is probably why we
Yeah, and that's a good point too. Because as a Pats fan, I was more scared of the Ravens
absolutely.
than the Steelers. So I don't
There's no
know.
team that
I
scared
think
me less than the Steelers.
right. So I don't know how strongly you feel about Pittsburgh being 11. I don't know. I think the Ravens might get the nod for me though.
I'm fine changing it to the Ravens. My thing with the Chiefs, they are undoubtedly better than these two franchises since
They're
2018. But
scary. You're right.
before that, which is 18 years,
Bigger sample size.
obviously
Those
not
other
even
two.
close, not even close to the other two.
Yeah.
So that's why. Do you see my reasoning, Dave? Do you feel strongly about the Chiefs being ahead of both the Steelers and the Ravens?
No, I mean this whole, like this last 10 could be in
Mhm.
whatever order.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
because obviously we're gonna have different, you know, weight scales on in like certain achievements
Yeah.
and that stuff. So
All right. I'm gonna go. Well, I had the Chiefs ahead of the Ravens.
Where'd you have the Ravens?
I had the Ravens probably at
Probably
13.
like next. Yeah.
Oh no, I had the Ravens at 14
Oh.
behind the Astros.
Hmm.
How many conference titles for the Ravens? We need to dig deep.
conference titles or appearances?
Appearances, sorry. Obviously,
It's a little weird too, because I feel like the Ravens also had to play us a lot in the divisional, which might
here we go.
sort
Here
of
we go.
skew
This is
the
gonna help
conference
us.
title appearances. Wow. So we got lost divisional, lost wild card, lost divisional conference. So that's
Oh
one.
wait. But they lost in 08
Guess
to
you
the
can count
Steelers.
two since 2000 because they won the Super Bowl and won, and then
Lost to
three
us
they
in
lost to the
11.
Steelers in 08. That matters. In 2011 that was against us, right?
Mm-hmm. And then they won the
Yeah.
next year.
And then they won the Super Bowl the next year, and they were kind of spooky from 2015 to 2017. I don't remember that.
Yeah. So
That's
I feel like the
like they.
Steelers, it'll be different.
Yeah, I'm not mad at the Steelers being ahead, but
All right. One, let me just do conference title. All right. One conference title appearance. Greatest divisional
two
round
with the
game of all
Super
time,
Bowl.
arguably. One
Yeah,
conference title, two
right.
conference titles,
Three with the Super
three,
Bowl,
yeah,
and then four, and then
four,
another one with the Super
five.
Bowl. Five. Five
Okay.
since 2000.
All right. And now we're gonna do the Steelers.
So
One,
one,
two
15 and
yeah,
to
1, dude.
us. By the way, both of those
three,
two are to us.
yeah.
And they were 15 and 1 that season too. Holy shit.
Wait, all right. One,
Big
two,
Ben's rookie year.
three, four,
Four,
five,
five. They might have like two more.
six,
Six,
six. So is it
six,
6-5 here? In one more
six to
Super Bowl appearance?
five, and one more appearance. Hmm. Because their early 2000s was probably stronger.
Higher winning percentage too, a much higher winning percentage.
I mean, when was the last time
Pittsburgh.
they had a losing season? And then didn't the Ravens have
I don't even
like
think it's
win like
happened
3 in
this
a row?
century.
It hasn't happened since, well, that's why I mentioned, right?
I don't think it's ever happened, right? Since the 2000.
It hasn't
2003.
happened since 2003.
Yeah, and then didn't the Ravens had either 2 out of 3 seasons had a losing record or 3 in a row?
Yeah, it got spooky
Hmm.
there before Lamar.
I guess
That's
the
why they got him.
Steelers.
A lot of 8 and 8s though, like 9 and 8.
That's my
That,
thing.
that's
Yeah.
so tough.
It's
That's
mediocrity.
so close.
Yeah.
There's
It is so close
lengths
for
of
me.
mediocrity for both of these teams.
I think I still lean Baltimore, but like if you have Pittsburgh over them, I'm not going to give you much pushback either way.
I'll say Pittsburgh,
Baltimore's
Dave. You be tiebreaker.
scarier.
I'd say Pittsburgh.
All right. We'll go Pittsburgh.
We'll keep the Steelers then.
All right, we'll keep the Steelers.
And then
Kansas City, it's so recent, even though it's just as many now as just as many conference appearances. Let's say Kansas City wins next week. I think they leapfrog.
ooh, they might
They
that might
leapfrog
be
into
kind of
number
scary.
8. They leapfrog past the Steelers. They
And then who do
leapfrog
you have at
past
10?
they would leapfrog past the Blackhawks too. and they would leapfrog arguably past the 9. I wouldn't put them past the Penguins.
Giants
So sustained.
and the Lightning, and then
I
Penguins
would
at
sort of
7.
equate them to the Lightning. I would say now the argument is Lightning or Chiefs.
Yeah, right. That's where I would start the argument is there.
Yeah.
Yeah, where you could put either of them at 7 or 8. And you're not going to find too much argument.
But if they lose,
They lose.
which I hope happens, you'll be 2-2 in the
They
big game.
probably no worse than 15. I don't think you could drop them too far.
No, I
right?
wouldn't drop them. I wouldn't even drop them at all. They already have 2, which is the
Yeah.
same as the Steelers and the Ravens. And we're talking about
they
them when
lost
they have
to
one of the greatest
Baltimore?
quarterbacks of all time.
Had they lost to Baltimore and Baltimore won the Super Bowl this year,
Mm.
then I think there's a real argument there. But
And Baltimore shoots up the list, but that's not going to happen.
yeah,
Unfortunately, we might talk about that a little bit later. But Chiefs. All right, Steelers.
Chiefs,
Do we want-
Astros.
Do we want to put Baltimore ahead
Mm,
Of the Astros?
of no, ahead of the Chiefs?
Oh. I wouldn't, personally.
You wouldn't?
No.
The more I think about it,
the Chiefs were that, like you said earlier, Gabe. They were at least decent during the Alex Smith era. Like if they just sucked
yeah.
and then all of a sudden they were just kicking ass with Mahomes, maybe.
All right.
But yeah, I think you can leave it like this.
So Astros versus Ravens. Do we dock the Astros for cheating?
Yes, because
Okay.
I have to.
like multiple spots. Because
Ooh.
you completely negate that 2017 championship because the fact that they knew what pitch was coming, like
I was gonna ask,
it's
like, what
almost
did they do?
like if
And
you have the roster that they had, they already could have competed. They had a
Mhm.
really good team on paper. And then you tell these already elite level hitters exactly what pitch is coming, there's no contest.
Mm.
Look at their splits when it comes to batting average on the road and at home for their best players. It's like astronomically disgusting. So I
wow.
think you negate them. Not only do you negate them from that championship, I think you negate them spots for, again, that whole cultural impact thing. Like, I think that's a negative that could also push them down the list, not only
Yeah.
just because they lose a championship.
Yeah, moving the
Yeah.
Ravens up right now.
Because baseball was never going to do it, but in
But we
a
will.
sane world, they should have, that season should just be void. But baseball will never do it.
But they won't let Barry Bonds in the Hall
It's
of
also
Fame.
inconsistent. Yeah, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
so would you even have the Astros in your top 20, Dave?
Probably not, because they were also
Wow. 5 World Series
So-
appearances.
yeah, but that span in between of them being good and then them being good again, because that original team also never won. And the time in between, like, they were horrific.
Mm.
Like losing 100+ games, multiple, like the beginning of Altuve's career, multiple 100-loss seasons. In both leagues. They were in the National League and the American League, and they sucked in both.
Wow. All right. Well, that's giving room to somebody else to hop into
Sure,
this top
sure.
20. All right.
Mm,
So I have the Ravens at 13.
okay.
So the next team, would we put the Yankees at 14, or are we adding somebody in now?
I would push up your entire list one spot and then see, because I like the rest of your list.
Yeah.
So I think the argument would be, okay, everybody gets pushed up at least one spot, and then we can work our way down, shuffle those however we want, and then we can talk about who's 20.
Mm. All right.
Yeah.
Because you could talk about your honorable mentions. Like,
Yeah.
all right, who creeps in now?
The Utah Jazz. Jay, let me just ask you, what was the reasoning behind the Jazz being included in the top 20? Because I don't even know if they're
Honestly,
top 20 NBA franchises of the 2000 since 2000.
they're probably top 20 NBA, but there was not a lot of homework put into like when I was doing when it got to like 15 or 20, I was like, all right, let me just like jot down some names. What was it? I think I've seen something where I was like, oh wow, they
Okay.
Was it wins maybe?
They're
I don't know if you
never
guys were using this
drafting
site.
top
There was
one. They're never like top
Champs
one,
or
two, three.
Chumps. I don't know if you guys were using this site called Champs or Chumps, but this was like my main resource for this list.
Mine was
Um,
StatMuse, my citation.
that's a good one too. Most NBA bets since I don't know. Just reading the jazz out loud didn't even feel right. Let me see.
Didn't you start giggling when you said it?
No, I literally I started like my first. I had the Jazz and the Rockets and the Cavs.
The Rockets, there's a small case. Like,
The Harden era and then the T-Mac
yeah, they've been
teams.
relevant. They've
I have
been
They've been
some.
relevant.
relevant,
I have
yeah.
somebody that could sneak in on the bottom of the list. 4 Stanley Cup appearances, 2 wins. The New Jersey Devils.
I had them in my honorable
Who
mentions,
wins?
but their two wins
Wins.
happened at the beginning of the decade, right?
So
Or the beginning of the 2000s. What do you
yeah,
mean so?
2000 and 2000. Yeah, but that's still championships in the 21st century. What's the
And
difference in value between winning a championship in 2000 or 2003 and then winning a championship this year? It's still a ring in the 21st
yeah.
century.
If there's another team that has one in 2000 and like 2011, that's just being, you know, longer sustained greatness, I think. But I can't think of a team that would be like that. So maybe it is the Jersey Devils. Vegas just being one because they were born yesterday.
But they've been
Okay,
good the whole
so
time.
they're like kind of in the Kansas. They need to exist way longer for us to even consider them, but they're kind of like
Yes.
Kansas City vibes where it's this could be a lot different in 10 years. Okay, so the New Jersey Devils, would there be any baseball teams that you would think, Dave, could maybe
I mean, the only
make a
other team
push?
would maybe be the Dodgers in terms of consistency, but or maybe even the Phillies.
Dodgers are the
Dodgers,
second highest winning
Phillies.
percentage
Yeah.
since 2000.
And how much World Series wins do they have?
One, right?
Yeah, one. It was the COVID year.
And Jersey has two. Where's Jersey, Gabe, as far as like winning percentage?
Bottom of the middle to bottom of the pack here. Let me pull it up.
They're 15th. They're right in the middle.
50, yeah, they're right in the middle.
15th.
Mm,
I like that. I would like that to be a little bit higher, but two still two. And then would there be any NFL or NBA teams that come to mind?
You
I'm
mentioned
just
the
trying to like get a
Mavs.
team from each league and then we'll just,
The
deliberate
Mavs
from
made the
there.
finals twice. They
Twice,
had Dirk. They have Luca.
right.
Second highest winning percentage since 2000 with 590
They've always been good.
by a wide margin too. The Celtics are at 3 with 563.
Yeah. So maybe the Mavs is like the one NBA team that
Do we bump the Celtics or
would
the Mavs?
consider. The Celtics got two though.
Celtics got one title
It's
appearance
it's
or
splitting
one
hairs,
championship
but
and 3 title
or
appearances. And
right, three
The
appearances.
Mavs have one title in
Two
2 appearances.
appearances.
In that first
The
title
Celtics,
appearance, they say they got fucking
yeah,
robbed by the officials. That's what the neutral
okay.
NBA fan in the know says, that why was Dwayne Wade shooting like 25 free throws a game in that series? And they
It's
had
kind of
Dirk,
tough.
and Dirk's higher on my all-time list than any of the Celtics that we've had. But the Celtics have been always mentioned in championship contenders from 2008 to like 2011, and then
In the past like 4 years, they've
past 4 years, and they made the
statistically
finals.
been the best team all regular season. Playoffs is a
Yeah,
different story, but
the Mavericks made the conference final. Let me go to how
that's
many times they've
tough.
made the
That's a
conference
tough
finals.
one.
Because the Celtics weren't very good early 2000s, but they did make the conference finals one point.
What about the Bruins?
So it's almost like who was
It's
better
the
at the
Bruins, yeah.
worst now?
See, look at this. All these playoff
See,
appearances
that's
since 2000.
nah. The Mavs might be ahead of the Celtics. That's
So
insane.
yeah, semifinals, All right, one conference finals,
I forgot they lost to the Heat.
Yeah.
two
Wade's
conference
first one.
finals,
Do you dock them for losing in
three
the
conference
first round with
finals,
67 wins?
four conference finals,
It's fair.
and then they have the five conference finals because I know they went with the Phoenix choke job, obviously.
It's
Which
also a lot of first round exits.
there is a lot of first round exits.
So it's like, why even be there?
Yeah, but the West from
It was kind of
2000 to like 2018, the West was like insane. It was
it
so
comes down
clearly
to
better
like
than the East.
I think it comes down to the Celtics the last five like okay,
Celtics,
the Mavericks
Bruins.
from 2000 to 2006, that Dallas Mavericks team, or the Celtics like from 20
Let me pull up
I
the
don't know when
Celtics
Tatum
here.
became a guy, 2019 to now.
I'm pulling up the Celtics.
Because I think they're even if you just look at it right in the middle of it all.
2002 conference finals. Three, four, five.
I think I'd still have the Celtics over the Mavs, actually.
Yeah, the Celtics definitely have way more conference finals appearances, which it hurts to see how many times they've been that far and they've only won one title. Um, but those Isaiah Thomas years, that's my thing with the LeBron Jordan thing. It's like LeBron was meeting the Isaiah Thomas Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. The East was such a fucking joke
Yeah.
for this time span, where the West on the flip side was insane in the 2000s. Lakers, Spurs, Mavs, Steve Nash Suns.
Like the Celtics overachieved more with less, like when their teams weren't as
Yes.
good versus the Mavs when they were really good teams. And like
Hmm.
Dave said, getting bounced in the first round. I think we're good. Yeah. We can have the Celtics above Dallas.
Okay.
How did this conversation start though? I think we were trying to think of another NBA team to throw on the to maybe
Yeah,
consider
NFL, I
for
think we're good.
NFL. Yeah, because we're not saying the Giants because that was just like a blimp
The
in
Pats just
time.
bitch slapped everybody. Well, the NFL, you have the Eagle. All right, you have the Eagles and the Packers came to mind for teams. You mentioned the Saints and the Seahawks too, Jay. Um,
Yeah.
the Seahawks actually made three Super Bowls now that I think of it, because they went and lost to the Steelers in '05.
Their peak was pretty crazy.
Yeah, but it's a lot of wild card, divisional wild card.
Like that 2012 to yes, that was a really good team.
Yeah,
Back to back appearances, too.
to Super Bowl, that's difficult. Um, '05.
A lot of bad
They
years,
had a
though.
big
A lot of bad years. A lot of division, a lot of
another
wild
team.
card outs.
Yeah. Plus,
They had a real
one of
impact
those
though.
years that they made the playoffs, they made as a 7-9 team.
But they won a playoff game.
That
That
is
was
true.
the Beast Quake.
Yeah.
Yeah, in football, like yeah.
The
And then the
Saints, I can't know.
Saints,
There's too
a
many
lot of
types
dry
of
years.
lot of
Yeah.
lot of missing the playoffs here. We can't add them, but
Yeah, we
cultural
can't.
impact, they're definitely up there in terms of that in like moments. And they've
They
been
had
tortured. They've been tortured the past like 6 years. Music, the Minnesota Miracle or the Minneapolis Miracle. Um, they had the helmet to helmet pass interference call that wasn't called versus the Rams. It's been rough.
So would you guys have Seattle? Would you have, yeah, who would you choose between the Eagles or the Seahawks if you had to pick a team?
The Eagles and the Seahawks?
So I think it might come down
The
to those two for
Eagles.
me.
I mean, the Eagles
The
have
Eagles.
they went to the Super Bowl last year.
Mhm.
They won the Super Bowl in 2017. They went to the conference title in '08. They had the Mike Vick year, which was like cultural, like that was dope. They were like the fucking team to use
Yeah,
on Madden. They lost a conference title in '03 and then went to the Super Bowl. And it's definitely Eagles over Seahawks for
yeah,
me. But
I agree.
for me, it's Eagles versus Packers.
Well, I would have the Packers ahead. I think the Pack because now the Packers now comes to superstars. I think
Where are the Packers though?
another part of the
Oh,
pie
they're up here.
chart.
They're third,
Yeah.
and the Packers have the
More
win
wins.
percentage.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna pull up their playoff because there were some dry years for them. Not nearly as much as there
Not a
are for
lot
other
though.
teams. Yeah.
Yeah.
Divisional,
It was either
divisional wild
Favre or
card,
Rodgers.
conference title 1, 2, 3, 4,
Yeah, no, it's
5,
Green Bay over
6,
Philly.
6
Green Bay is
conference
definitely
title
the team.
appearances. They're the Celtics of the NFL.
Right.
Always in the mix. They got their one title in the 21st century, but yeah.
That's really it.
Mm,
So did you have the Packers in
I
your
had them
top 20?
20. Had them 20.
Oh, okay. So
So they would be 19 now. So they're in
you
anyways
brought
with
up
me.
the New Jersey Devils was like the hockey team we're considering. Have we? I don't even think we
2.
decided a baseball team, did we? Okay,
I wouldn't.
Dave, you said the Phillies, maybe?
I wouldn't put a baseball team in there.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
it felt like there was the 4 baseball teams. I had the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Cardinals, and the
Giants,
Astros, and then
And
you
the
had the
Giants.
Dodgers
We
there
had 5.
the Giants too, yeah.
and the Giants, yeah. And then after that, I was like, you could put the Dodgers, but we probably won't.
So it's between I feel like it's between the New Jersey Devils,
The Bruins.
the Bruins,
I already
maybe the
had the Celtics on there.
Mavericks, and then it's really it, right?
And the Eagles.
Maybe the Eagles.
I want to look at the Bruins playoff history. Sorry, Dave, this might be painful.
It's fine.
We gotta do this though.
They're also the only team on that list that is number 1 in the 21st century in win percentage. Don't forget that.
Right.
Yep.
They're the
That's
only
why
team with
I
1,000
initially
wins,
had
bro.
them.
Yeah.
They're when I was doing it, I was like, all right, I gotta have some hockey teams. They were like,
And they're maybe
that
the
was the
best team in
reason
the league
behind
this
it.
year too.
Yeah.
Right.
And the all-time wins in the regular season last year, is that right?
That's right.
Yeah, that we don't talk about that.
Does that not matter though?
I mean, it does, but
'Cause it adds to the overall resume.
So they're almost
Um,
always in the playoffs. In the let's see.
so the Bruins or the Devils?
the Devils
2,
do have 2 cups, and they've been twice, so they've been the same amount of times.
3. The
Oh no, the
Bruins
Bruins have only been 3 times actually.
in the Bruins, it looks like when they don't make the cup, they don't even make the conference finals. It looks
Because
like
they haven't lost the conference finals.
okay. So we'll look at the Devils real quick because now it's looking like Devils.
I just wonder how like the Devils, y'all said they won the 2 rings early on. Like how have they been since then? Would be my question.
I mean, look at this. That's
Ooh,
disgusting.
see, I was worried about
That's
that.
disgusting. But
Yeah, no, I don't know, man.
they made the cup in 2012. What happened after 2012, Dave?
I'm obviously going to defer to you guys here, but
They had
just
to blow
looking
it
at
up.
this,
I'll
I
defer
would
to
choose the
Dave, but
Bruins.
yeah. So they have this run here
Man, it was kind of crazy. Yeah,
at the
it was kind of
beginning of the
crazy though.
beginning of the
First
century.
10 years, yeah. That's what the fuck,
Man,
man.
they've been what happened, Dave? Can you tell me what happened
Yeah,
after 2012 with the Jersey
actually
Devils?
curious.
They had to blow it up.
They blew it up.
Yeah, they had to. They
They've been
also, well,
rebuilding
what
ever since.
really fucked them over was they gave a guy like a 10-year contract that was like some record-breaking shit, and then he decided after like 2 years he wanted to go play in Russia. So
Oof.
Ooh,
the guy that was a superstar that they were building their franchise around just decided to leave. So
that's
that
tough.
doesn't help.
I
That's
almost
true.
don't want to penalize them too much because of that, because is that really their
I
fault?
honestly didn't know that the
It was this
2010s were
bad?
that bad.
Dude,
That's
this is like
Yeah.
that's
looking
bad.
at the fucking Charlotte Hornets
Yeah, that right.
post 2012.
That's like a cursed franchise kind of feel.
I want to give it to the Bruins because I just
I
feel
would
like
also give it to the Bruins. I just brought up the Devils because they had the cups.
yeah. I wrote down like all the cups, like when I sent you, Dave, like the NHL teams that have won back to back, and then like in the 80s and whatever, there was teams that went four peats, but in the Devils were there. But yeah, this second half of the this is bad. This would be the flakiest team I feel on our list. Them and the Blackhawks, but the Blackhawks three is undeniable.
Yeah, threes. Yeah.
So it's the Bruins versus the Eagles, and I think the both have been to the finals three times.
Mm. Bruins, Eagle. Oh, yeah, yeah, Eagles.
Moments, the Bruins have the comeback versus the Maple Leafs.
But that
Yeah,
same
what
year, they
moments have
also
the Eagles had
milked
besides that fairy tale Nick Foles run?
I mean, they
Deshaun
had
Jackson punt return.
well, I was gonna say the
Oh,
versus the Giants, right, in the regular season.
Sean. Yeah, Deshaun Jackson.
They had the Mike Vick. That was the same team.
The McNabb years were good.
They had T.O. T.O. went off in the Super Bowl versus the Pats on like a
Broken
broken
leg.
whatever, like a broken foot or something, like a torn quad. I can't quite remember.
Yeah, I'll leave this to you guys to make this decision. Bruins or Eagles?
All right, let me get off the Devils here.
Not sure.
And I also feel like it's a much more boring list if we're just like, okay, most titles, most titles, most titles. But that's what you want as a fan.
You also have to think if it's franchise, it's like the Bruins have been putting out the most consistent product of the 21st century in their respective league.
Hmm.
It's a good point.
Like if we're gonna put the Yankees, we gotta put the Bruins too.
Exactly.
Right.
All right, I'm putting the Bruins. All four Boston teams made it. Yay. All right.
That's it. That's 20, right?
Right. So how do we feel about the middle of the list? Like I'll read it off in a second. Let's put the Bruins here. Um Pats 1, Lakers
Yep.
2, Spurs 3, Red Sox 4, Warriors 5, Heat 6, Penguins 7, Lightning 8, Giants, San Francisco Giants 9, Blackhawks 10, Steelers 11, Chiefs 12, Ravens 13, Yankees 14, Cardinals 15, Red Wings 16, Avalanche 17, Celtics 18, Packers 19, and then Bruins at 20. Does
I
that feel
like it.
right? Any objections?
I could maybe swap the Cardinals and the Yankees, but I
Oh,
wouldn't be hurt if you don't. Can you scroll up to the Yankees real quick?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, the Yankees paid for their rings. That's all I'm gonna say. I guess Jeter and Rivera,
I love it.
they're
yeah.
homegrown.
More of an impact, maybe,
Yeah, A-Rod used
culturally.
steroids though. And I
Right.
also fucking hate the Yankees.
All
So
right. We'll
I
leave it as is. This is the list. I'll go 20 to 1 just to round it out for our listeners. 20 we have the Bruins, 19 we have the Packers, 18 we have the Celtics, 17 we have the Colorado Avalanche, 16 we have the Detroit Red Wings, 15 we have the St. Louis Cardinals, 14 we have the Yankees, 13 we have the Baltimore Ravens, 12 Chiefs, 11 Steelers, 10 we have the Chicago Blackhawks, 9 we have the San Francisco Giants, 10 the Tampa Bay 8 the Tampa Bay Lightning, 7 the Pittsburgh Penguins, 6 the Heat, 5 the Warriors, 4 the Red Sox, 3 the Spurs, 2 the Lakers, and last but not least, the New England Patriots.
whoop whoop.
All right, that's the list. We'll be back in just a second to talk about the conference title games and talk a little Super Bowl and maybe a few other things. All right, we're back. NFL playoffs. Football next week ends, unfortunately. By the time this comes out, it'll be the week of the Super Bowl. And this time of year really bums me out. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like sports stops mattering for real until um the NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs. Like that time of year is when but now until then it gets kind of dicey. March Madness is cool, but I feel like men's college basketball is in a really bad spot right now. Women's, it hasn't been this good in forever. But
Zach
nonetheless,
Edey doesn't move the needle for you.
no, no, it's rough watching college.
I don't
Men's
think he
college
does for
basketball is rough
anyone.
to watch.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, conference title games. We're gonna do a little talk about that because we missed it last week, but it'll be the Chiefs and the Niners in the Super Bowl. Let's start with the Chiefs and Ravens. We had high hopes for the Ravens this year. Jay, you were early on them. You were right. They had the best roster all year. They still have the best roster in football. Um, though the clock is already ticking on them as they have lost coordinators since losing that game. Players are going to leave in free agency, and it feels like their window might have closed, which might be a premature thing to say, but I just want to know what were your thoughts on the game? How do you feel about the Ravens going forward and anything else that might be on your mind?
I mean, it kind of sucked because it feels like Baltimore went away from what was working for them all season. And like even that the game against Houston the week before, it was, kind of a rough first half, but they adjusted in the second half and Lamar was taking the short passes, they were running the ball. I remember Gus Edwards had a 15-yard run in the first quarter, and he had two more carries the whole game, which is I don't understand why that was the case. But yeah, Lamar wasn't great. The play calling wasn't great. It seems like they were rattled. A lot of times people are like, "Oh, the team that's been there more,"
Hmm.
that like it's almost a cliche now,
Yeah.
but it really felt like that mattered in this game. Like Kansas City just looked so composed the way they came out those first two drives, like two quick touchdowns. And Baltimore was just like, I don't know, they just looked like that was just not the team we watched all year, which
No,
sucks because we were hoping for like the game had some moments, but it just sucked overall as a
it never
viewer.
really got going. It felt like it was waiting to
Yeah,
explode. You have the pass play. It starts Mahomes bang bang bang
right
bang bang
away.
down the front.
Yeah,
Look, it was Patriots-esque. It was like
yeah,
we're gonna come out and we're gonna hit you death by a million cuts. Got into the end zone immediately. Lamar responds with a crazy bomb. Um,
yeah. Broken play.
yeah, which was cool to see. And I was like, all right, we have a game. This is gonna be sick. Then Chiefs
Yeah,
score. And then after that,
that
it
was
was
it.
like, can you go band for band with the Chiefs? And that wasn't even gonna really be the
Couldn't.
case. The more the game went on, the Ravens defense took over, but the offense just couldn't get it together. The Ravens
Yeah,
defense, outside of a few penalties, were perfect.
they
For
were amazing, bro.
70% of the game. That was like the best anyone's defended all playoffs. That
Dude, they
particular
had the
game.
Chiefs. The Chiefs couldn't do anything in that
Nope.
second half, which is to your point. Like if Baltimore, I think you were texting this to me when we were watching the game, but like if they could even get field goals, they
And they
might have a
were.
chance to win.
They were in field goal range enough times, probably 4 or 5 times with the greatest kicker of all
Right.
time. If you just
Mhm.
kick field goals, that's like 15 points right there. You win the game. But
Right.
they turned the ball over, I think, twice in the red zone.
The
Um,
Lamar interception threw it into triple coverage, which that
yeah,
was the
that
whole
was
thing with
bad.
Baltimore. I feel like they were just trying to force things where, like you
Hmm.
said, Kansas City, just Mahomes playing point guard in that first quarter, taking what was there, quick pass, quick pass.
Yep.
There's just those two teams, you could just tell there was a difference in composure and experience.
Romo mentioned what the Chiefs' defense weaknesses were. It was
Mm.
running running backs catching balls, tight ends, mobile quarterback. It was like everything that the Ravens are, and the Ravens did none
Right.
of it. And I think the moment I realized like these guys aren't built for the moment was and obviously this isn't the only reason the Ravens lost. Lamar did not have a good game. The
Oh,
offense
he
as a
was
whole
bad.
didn't. I thought the play calling was fucking terrible as we just mentioned, but the moment
Yep.
that really put it in a bow was he underthrows a pass to Zay Flowers. That would have been a touchdown, but he underthrows to Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers catches it. They're down like 10. I can't remember what they were down. They might have been down 7.
Yeah,
I
it's
can't quite
just
remember.
was this before the fumble, right? The big
Yes.
play.
Zayflower
Okay.
gets up, taunts the guy.
Mm.
We can debate taunt rules if you want, but you're losing. Why are you fucking shit talk? Like, you guys got to get
Also,
in line,
yes,
get to the line and run a
yes,
play and whatever. Also, the zigzags moves he did, like, I feel like he could have gone in the end zone. I'm not a receiving expert though, so that's just me bullshitting. But all that was like, I thought he did like 3 stupid things in a row, and then obviously the next play dives for the
yes,
goal line. It wasn't 4th down. It wasn't 3rd down. Like, dude, you have plenty of time to get in the end zone. He wanted to be a hero. He
yeah,
wanted to get in the end zone so he could shit talk more. And he lost them the game there. But like I said, it wasn't
yeah.
just that. There was a million things. And it was just a shit show, start to finish from the Ravens outside of the defense.
Yeah, and even Lamar had a few moments where it looked like he could have taken off, where he
Yep.
didn't. Even remember that first big run he
Beginning of
had,
the game, yeah,
where we were like, "Why is that not a touchdown?" Like that
yeah.
Lamar, he like hesitated, and there was so much other moments where he could have taken off, but he held on to the ball. The strip sack fumble was a big sort of turning point in the game in the first half.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, man, it's just Baltimore was just that was just a really bad performance. I guess credit to Kansas City too, like their defense
Yes, it's
did a good
legit.
job.
Like I
Yeah,
just,
it's
yeah,
right. It's a
top
legit
4
defense, and then
playoff defense.
Kelsey looked like his old self. Mahomes, the rookie Rasheed Rice, like their guys just showed up, and Baltimore's guys didn't. That's
Right.
really what it came down to.
Yep. In the other game, heartbreaking for us as fans of the Lions.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, it felt too good to be true. I'm not gonna lie, it did feel too good to be true when they were up that much going into this second half. And I'm just looking at Dan Campbell and I'm looking at them and I'm like, the Lions are this
this
is too
can't be
good to be true.
real.
There's gonna be a run by the
Yeah,
Niners, and that's exactly what happened. Uh, I don't know. I mean, it was bound to, the Niners were due to have a crazy comeback. Like they were due to put points on the board eventually with all those weapons.
right.
It's gonna happen. I just think the way the play calling at the end for Detroit wasn't good, or not the play calling, but the clock management,
Execution,
decision making,
everything.
execution. Yeah,
Yeah, it
drop
was everything with
passes.
Detroit.
Goff,
Yeah.
Goff, like Baltimore's defense. Goff was great,
Mhm.
probably the best quarterback I saw last Sunday, but
Agreed.
nonetheless, it's a team game.
Yeah, I'm with you because the first half, Detroit was running the ball, getting whatever they wanted. San Francisco, like they had, I think McCaffrey had one drive where he just, it was literally by himself and he resulted in a touchdown. But like you said, the second half, it was just a complete meltdown from like, there was a few fourth down decisions they made. And I like looking back, I guess I really only didn't like one. And when it was, they could have, when they had a chance to tie it to make it 27-27,
Hmm.
and they went for like a fourth and
I
three.
agree with you.
I didn't like that one. Yeah, that one's like, all right. The one before that, I think it was early on, and it was right there. But again, that was like a fourth and one. They were just kicking San Francisco's ass in the run game, and it was a pass, which the guy drops it.
Yep.
Goff put it, like you said, Goff was great all night. Um, Guy didn't catch it. They had a few of those. The Gibbs fumble,
That was a killer.
that
That was a
resulted,
killer.
yeah. And the Niners, they also had some breaks too, like that pass Purdy made, the deep ball to Ayuk, where the guy should have intercepted it,
Yeah.
it just bounces off his helmet. It's like, oh, okay. Like you said, the Detroit DNA is starting to kick in here. You
Right.
could just feel it. Um, and Purdy, like also like how we gave credit to Kansas City's defense, I think
Hmm.
we should also give credit to Purdy.
He
Like
did
San
his
Francisco's
thing.
offense, the weapons are really good, but Purdy, he had a few moments where he's scrambling and like
Yeah.
picking up big chunks of yards on his feet.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was more of a Detroit meltdown, I think. The other one was more of like not a meltdown for Baltimore. They just, I don't know. I don't know what was going on with them, but that
It
one
was
was
a
just like
game
Detroit
long.
had a meltdown.
Yeah. The Baltimore thing was like a whole game problem for the
Yeah.
offense and the offensive play
Yes.
calling. And
Yeah.
Lamar wasn't himself. And the Detroit one was just like a million things happened in the span of 5 minutes. And the
Right.
game, they were broken from there. And then
Exactly.
I don't know if you mentioned this, but the using the timeout basically settling using the timeout to stop the clock so that you could like get a playoff or get a couple more plays off for
Yeah.
but then you're making it so that you have to onside kick. That's
Right.
basically
You're
waving the
talking
white.
about at the end of the game for
Yeah.
Detroit, that yeah. And
Yeah.
you think they had three timeouts and then it was the third and goal. They ran the ball instead of
Right.
throwing it. Like it was
Yeah.
just decision making in these critical moments. They ran the ball, didn't get it, had to call the timeout.
Yeah.
And then, they get the touchdown, but then like you said, now you're forced to do the onside kick rather than play with three timeouts and maybe
Mhm.
stop the Niners,
Yeah.
force a three
It,
and out. Just
we
too
said a few
much
times, Jay,
mistakes.
in the past couple weeks, like when Dan Campbell makes a decision and it works, we're like, well, that's why we're on our couch and he's coaching the NFL. But
Yeah,
there was a few decisions that game, like the 4th and 3 you mentioned, where they were down, where they went for it,
right.
stuff like that, and the timeout. It's like even if this does work, I don't, I don't agree.
Yeah.
It's not the right course of
It,
action.
I felt the same way when they played Dallas a few weeks ago in the regular season. Remember when they went for
Yes,
the 2 point conversion from
after
like the
the
seven,
penalties.
but
Yeah,
yeah, stupid Dallas was offsides and they get it to the three, and then they still and like they didn't end up getting it, but everyone's like, oh well, you make the decision when it's 2 yards away. But it's like, okay, what about the decision when it was 7 yards away? We're just not gonna act like that didn't happen.
yeah,
So yeah, it's
tough.
unfortunate for Detroit, but
Not the
it's what
matchup we
happens in the
wanted.
playoffs.
Not the matchup we
Yeah.
wanted. A rematch of 2019, but we'll see.
Yeah, as far as like narratives and stuff, I don't think it's the best matchup, but I think the game is, I think it's going to be a really good game.
I
At least I
agree.
hope.
I
But
agree with you for sure.
yeah, just from pure football, like that, like what we're going to watch as far as what those two teams do, I think should be entertaining.
Is Mahomes the GOAT if he wins the Super Bowl here?
I think you know how I feel.
Dave is nodding yes.
Does he pass Peyton for you guys
No,
if he gets three?
no, here's
No.
my
Okay.
thing. Andy Reid and I sound like the people who said it was all Belichick for Brady. It's not like that, but Andy Reid is one of the greatest offensive play callers of all time. Kelsey is one of the greatest tight ends of all time, and Mahomes has had them his entire career.
Yeah.
I think Mahomes is on pace to pass them all. Um, he'd be on the trajectory to catch Tom. Do I think that'll happen with a mobile quarterback who's oftentimes limping around? Um, in this era of salary cap era where the Patriots, we just mentioned the top 20 franchises of the past since 2000 and New England's so clear and far above everybody. Do I think in reality he'll catch Brady? No. Um, do I think I'd rather have Mahomes in a big game than Brady? No. Do I think I'd rather have Mahomes than Manning in a big game? Maybe. We saw Manning fall apart in some big games. Now, I'm not saying if Mahomes wins, he passes Manning. It's
Yeah.
rings aren't everything. And when you start talking about rings sometimes with Brady, I think it's dismissing how good he was. I think a good thing about Mahomes' run here and the people saying he might pass Brady is all the highlights we've gotten to see the past few years or past few days. Um, look at the top, whatever the highest passing yards in statistics, best Super Bowl performances. You gotta go pretty far down before you get to Mahomes.
Brady has like five of those, I
Yeah,
think.
Brady's got like five of the top 10, 12, and then you got Kurt Warner in there a couple times. But yeah, I hate that it's a discussion because I don't like to dismiss Mahomes because I'm pro Mahomes. I think he's clearly QB1. I think there's been times in the past few years where people try to say it's Allen. People try to say it's Lamar Jackson. I've never wavered from Mahomes being QB1. You can go back, listen to our QB podcast last year or the one this past year with Gene. It's always been Mahomes for me. But it's just not, like I said, it's not fair to him to compare him to Brady now because he's not.
Really.
Nobody
Yeah.
is. But yeah, I just wanted to do a little
No, I
damage scroll. I mean, we could go down the
think that's
we go down the
important.
stat sheet for Brady. Like we don't even need to talk about the rings. We just go down the stat sheet. We can do
Playoff
talk
wins,
about
like,
accuracy. We could talk about yeah,
no, I think that's a needed refresh for sure.
yes. But We'll see. It's gonna be a very interesting game. All right. We wanted to wrap things up today to talk about something else that's been in the news, just shifting gears here. Uh, the NBA 65 game rule, where basically if you don't play at least 65 games, you're banned from winning awards. Is it all awards, Jay?
Yeah, all awards,
Even all
all
NBA,
NBA,
even
defensive
defensive
player, all
player,
that.
hmm
Hmm.
and obviously the MVP. And the guy who was the front runner
Right.
for MVP is definitely not going to hit that mark. He probably wasn't going to win MVP regardless with the injury he's now suffered. He's probably going to miss more time than like even if the rule didn't exist, even back in the day, if you miss a
Right.
certain amount of time, we're just not gonna you're out of consideration.
Yes.
I want to hear your thoughts about it. I know Dave has thoughts about this rule too, not just the rule, but the reaction to it. So
I
Jay,
want
let
to
me ask
hear.
you first. Oh, you want
Well,
to
I
hear
want to
Dave?
hear. I want to hear Dave's thoughts first. Yeah.
Let's hear it, Dave.
All right. I mean, we've said it. We said it earlier. The best ability is availability, and I think the 17 games or whatever that somebody would miss, who's to say that that's 17 games where you don't completely just shit the bed and have 17 terrible games? Now, granted, somebody who's an MVP caliber player, probably not going to happen, but theoretically that could happen. And I think that's kind of like the basis of the rule. And then the NBA has also had a huge problem with resting players, which I'm not totally against resting players because obviously it's a grueling 82 game season and basketball is a physical demanding sport. But when it comes to awards, it's like that's the balance that you need to find. It's like, all right, you can rest these guys if you want. That's totally fine. But when somebody else wins the MVP because a guy averaged 28 playing 82 games wins the MVP instead of your guy who averaged 33 playing 64 games, it's like when you put it on that scale, I just can't see anywhere where there's a possible argument as to this person is is more valuable to their team than this guy because he's there every night. That's what you want out of your star player. You pay them all this money so that they can help your team win every game of the season, not 64 out of the 82. So, I don't know. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
pretty standard take. And I mean, I'd like to hear somebody's argument that is against it. I think the reaction to it, I don't know. I I really don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I just can't see any end of it, any end of that side that makes sense as to why somebody could play like 60% of the season and win the award. I just think that's ridiculous.
When it comes to the MVP, I don't think there's much of an argument to be made. Like,
Yeah.
regardless if there's a rule or not, we've always, like you said, Dave, like the MVP is always the guy who's been the best, but also played the most. And I think now because there's just like it's sort of written in pen, people are starting to overreact to the whole thing. For the all NBA teams, I could sort of see why there might be some pushback on that, just because there's just mathematically, you're gonna have a good amount of guys miss maybe like play 62 or 61 games that are way more deserving than a guy who's played 64. And just because, he met the threshold he's in. Just because of volume alone, I think with the all NBA, I wouldn't be mad if that rule didn't apply there. Defensive player, I don't really feel too strongly about that either way. Let me ask you guys this though. If Embiid comes out and says, I wanted because he was clearly injured before the injury that happened in Golden State that ultimately resulted in him tearing his meniscus. But if he comes out like a week from now and says, I was forcing myself to play through an injury because I didn't want to miss the threshold that would, result in me qualifying for the MVP. Would that change the way you feel about it if that's how players are looking at it now, where they're just forcing themselves to play through injuries because they want to meet a certain requirement, or it's like, nah, man, I'm not
It
hearing
it
that.
it doesn't change my perspective because I feel terrible for him that he feels like he needs to do that, but at the
Hmm.
same time, it's like part of value is being able to stay healthy. I feel
Yeah.
bad that you weren't able to stay healthy, but then that also decreases your value if you're playing 60 games every season. I'm not going to pay somebody $300 million that I know is only going to play 60 games. This
Yeah.
is how it is. I feel bad for him that he felt like he needed to do that, but at the same time, it's like, all right, well, in a way, like, is he valuing like his individual accolades over his team's accolades at that point?
Right.
That's also a little bit worrisome.
Hmm.
It's
You
like,
want
bro,
people? Yeah.
you already got an MVP, bro.
Yeah.
You already have your MVP. People
Yeah.
know you're that guy, and like he's the type of guy that he needs the rest because he just can't stay healthy.
Yeah, he's
And
never had a healthy playoffs.
yeah, and at that point, it's like your value is lesser than because you physically cannot play every game every season. And you're the
Yeah.
franchise, bro. You are the franchise. I don't know. But I agree on
What
the
are your
All
thoughts,
NBA
Gabe?
though.
Yeah. Yeah, with all NBA, it's just like it's gonna get weird when there's certain guys make like Mikal Bridges is gonna make it over.
Yeah,
Tatum's not a good example because he's just Iron Man, which
Terrible.
I think doesn't get enough credit to be honest. But
Yeah.
I don't know, like a Kawhi in past seasons where he might play like 61 games, which is really good for Kawhi, and he's just, typical Kawhi numbers. But then you have Mikal Bridges who plays 64. It's like, are we really, do
yeah,
we really want Mikal Bridges over Kawhi Leonard on an all NBA team because of 2 games?
Yeah.
Um,
It's
for MVP
tricky.
though, yeah. It was never a discussion for me with the MVP. What do you think, Abe?
I mean, we mentioned this a little bit, Dave, before. This is the only sport where this is a thing, where this people would even like the stars in other sports just show up every week or every night. It's not a debate. In regard to the NBA, when you look at the greatest players of all time, they're also very durable and they also showed up every night. LeBron, Jordan, Kareem. They were all Ironmen. Jordan's not thought of because he took whole seasons off because of this or that, however you think. But like when he played, he had multiple 82 game seasons. Uh, and that's not for nothing. I think in regard to the he shouldn't care about personal accolade. I think that's tricky. A lot of guys try to act like they don't care. Like Jokic has this thing about him where it's like, I don't care about the I don't care. Dude barely acted like he cared when we won the finals. But and that's to be appreciated. Like we like the humbleness of that. But I think it's obvious these guys care about winning MVPs. They care about all that stuff. And I wouldn't knock them for trying to play through injuries for that. But I'm not knocking the rule either, because like you said, it's it's about ultimately as a star, it should be about winning a title. And if you're an injury prone guy, you should be preserving yourself. Um, and in regard to the MVP, if you don't play over 65 games, you shouldn't win the MVP. Because like you
Right.
mentioned, Jay, 61, there's 82 games in a year. 61 would be like a third of the NBA. You missed a fourth of the NBA season at that point. Like that's a lot. That's a large that could keep your team out of the playoffs. If you're the most valuable player to your team and they fall apart when you're not there, that 1/4 of the season, like what if you guys just miss the playoffs because of that? So I don't have a problem with the rule because I don't think it would change things that much. If Embiid does come out and say, which I doubt he would, maybe he would.
I don't
That
think he would, but
yeah,
well, I shouldn't say, but I don't know.
right.
It was just a thought.
Yeah, if he comes out and says I was playing through injuries so that I could still qualify for the NBA award, I mean, that'll suck, but that was his
Yeah.
choice. And
Right.
the all NBA thing is a little different, I think, too, because it's a snapshot of who are the guys that year. And if you had a guy who was just having an MVP caliber season, like Embiid, and they play 63 games instead of 67, and a guy
Yeah.
who played 67 makes all NBA over him,
Doesn't
that's
feel
tough too.
right.
And B, a guy who's in MVP consideration should make all NBA no matter what, unless he's out for like half the season. I'm with you there. I'm with you there. I'm not, I could be swayed one way or the other probably, but at this point in time, I'll say I'm with you there. Also, it maybe when you get hurt, that kind of matters too. Like, let's say you're out at the start of the season, you get hurt in training camp,
Yeah.
you're out start of season, but you come back at the All-Star break and then you just
You
rip
just
off like a monster.
right.
and you get your team into the playoffs, your team gets, not that the playoffs matter for a regular season award, but let's say you come back to the All-Star break, your team's an 8 seed, and by the end of the rampage you've gone on, your team's like a 2 seed or a 3 seed. I don't think that I think you should qualify. I think that's memorable and you should qualify for all NBA.
Yeah, totally agree.
The crying about it from some of the media members, it's first of all, it's like first take
It's
culture. It's like we're
so
I'm gonna
fake.
take this side, you're gonna take that side. This is something we could disagree
Yeah.
on. That's definitely part of it, but also it's just like
And the
again,
same
it doesn't
people that are
happen in
crying
other
about it,
sports.
yeah, the same people that are crying about the rule were probably also the same people that are like, oh, Embiid's stuck in smoke when he didn't play in
Hmm.
Denver the other week.
Yeah.
And it's like we're like, how do you really feel about this? Or none of it feels genuine, but
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, we'll see though. We'll see. Hoping for the best for him. Not not the best, not the absolute best, because I'm a Celtics fan, but I hope he's healthy. Hope he gets
health-wise,
healthy.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
But yeah, that's the show today. I think I'll drop this Monday morning, and maybe we'll do one more show before the Super Bowl. Um, if not, we'll be back right after the Super Bowl. The season's winding down. The season's winding down. Um, I'll be we'll be wrapping this up soon. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe we'll wrap up around the All-Star break too. And there's the NBA trade deadline coming up. There's a lot to talk about. But Dave, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for bestowing us with your knowledge on hockey and baseball. Obviously, that went a long way today. And, appreciate you stopping by.
Sure did.
Of course.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.